Hello everyone and welcome to ZP Productions. This will be a very short midweek box opening and review of the Blackmagic Video Assist. As you can see here, so this Blackmagic Video Assist is the older model, only supporting 1080p and 422 10-bit ProRes recording internally. This is not the newer 12G version, and this is the older 6G version. Now, the reason I got it is very simple. I wanted both monitoring and recording and something that is light that I could put on top of a camera. The Atomos is slightly heavier than this because you have to mount the hard disk and then also mount a relatively big Sony battery. And as you can see here, I have a Canon camera. So I just wanted to get something that could utilize the battery too. Now this is an old model, but for its purpose, which is just to do off-camera monitoring, and for what I want to do reviews, which is to record the UI of the screen, including all the autofocus when I'm shooting and stuff, I think this monitor is enough. So in the recent Lazada 12/12 offer, I got this for about 650 Sing dollars, which is quite cheap. The US price is $499. Now this records to a SD card, but rather than me talking all this, let's do a box opening here. Firstly, let's open the box here and see what's inside. Now inside the box, there is actually a DaVinci Resolve. This is quite nice old packaging. It comes with SD cards for both the software menu and the software itself. Now this is very old, this is 2016, so we probably don't want to talk about it. So inside this box, the Blackmagic actually came in a very, very simple packaging. There's really nothing much. A charger, the charger heads, and the Blackmagic itself. Now, I'm just opening the box for you guys to see, but actually I've already handled the recorder for some time. So this recorder is really solid. It feels like it's made of some probably solid metal, or looks like solid metal. See, it gets some scratches here. It's like solid metal and plastic all together. So it's quite durable. This is definitely not something that you get off a lot of the new China monitors, which is cheap. And you can notice here there's 2 battery slots. We'll talk about the battery slots later. And there's almost 6 mounting points here. Yes, one of these USB. I'm not really sure what is it for yet. HDMI in, HDMI out, SD in, SDI out. Now this is actually something special because almost any monitor with SDI in and out would probably cost more than this monitor, So this monitor is quite value for money for 600, considering it has all the inputs. So this is a headphone jack, and SD card for recording, and a 12-volt power supply. And the on button is here. Okay. There's also another 2 buttons above here, and then these 2 buttons represents things to actually just unlock the battery and stuff. That is pretty much it for the monitor itself. Now, there's one more thing in the monitor that is quite cool. It has a monitor kickstand. So let's see this. So this monitor kickstand allows you to just put the monitor to stand on flat surfaces. Not really useful, but I would think that it's a small nice touch. Now with the 6 mounting point, you can literally mount it anywhere on the camera you want, either at the side, at the top, whatever that convenience you. And this screen has auto rotation, so you can actually mount it this way, whatever that you fancy. But if you notice, in the box there's almost nothing at all. No cables, don't even have the hot shoe mount. So they really require you to buy all the accessories and such. I purchased all the accessories that is required to run this monitor. Now, first thing about the accessories, we look at the battery. So this uses a standard Canon battery. Now let's see what happens when we put a single battery in. Now a single battery actually do run the monitor relatively well. You don't really need the second battery, unlike some other monitors which may have been using the second battery for power usage. This monitor just use it for redundancy purposes. So if you actually put a second battery in, now I'm taking out a second battery and just plug it in. Right, and I can actually swap the previous battery out. This allows continuity of usage. Now this is actually quite cool because it's actually a very professional, it's a very professional function to allow you to constantly have battery to run the system and replace it, without worrying that you suddenly stop monitoring halfway. And if you click on the top, let me first click on the top here, you can actually see the levels for both batteries. So quite a nice touch, you can use the batteries as you need. Okay, so now that we have booted up the monitor, let's look at the monitor itself. And let's plug in the screen. Let me plug in my screen. Okay, now it's plugged in the screen. As you can see here, this monitor is probably slightly brighter than my laptop here. So I'll rate it around maybe 300-400 nits of brightness. But let's say we take out something like the iPhone, which is rated for nearly like 700 nits of brightness, and let's compare to it. Now you look at this, the iPhone is way brighter. So this is actually an old monitor, and actually I recently reviewed, haven't posted it yet, one of the monitor from OC, and the OC is actually way brighter than my iPhone. So this guy is quite dark, and if you want to use it outdoor, you probably need some sort of hood. I'm just using it for mainly recording and what's not, so I really don't care about the hood that much. Now, this monitor do allow you to change brightness. I'll bring you through the functions later. But before that, let's look at some other functions that it have and what actually accessories you need to buy. Firstly, there's also an SD card, as I say. Just chuck the SD card in. Oh, wrong side. And once you chuck the SD card in, it will say card loading and card ready. I'll just take a look at here. Card loading and ready. Yeah. You probably can't see on the screen, but this is loading and ready. Now, I noticed that it's quite finicky with cards because when I plugged in cards of similar spec from SanDisk, it just doesn't work. But for some reason, it works on all the Sony cards that are UHS 2, and this is actually the cheapest one. Let me see, this is the 128 gig, and this costs, I remember, about 70 Sing dollars for 128 gig UHS 2, but it's quite minimal, 120 megabytes read, 120 megabytes write, so it's not really anything special here. You can get it for about $70, 60 plus. Okay, and once you put it, it allows you to record. So let's do a bit of recording. This monitor actually records in ProRes. In terms of the format, it's 100p. It doesn't go 4K, and actually it adjusts the format itself, so you really cannot do anything to it. But you can select the codecs you want. ProRes, ProRes Lite, ProRes Priya, DNX, HD, and what's not. So for now, I will just use ProRes, just to do recording. So this is a YouTube video, and I will show you the recording functions here. So if I press record, right, it shows that it's recording, and I just play the record here. Okay. Let me do a really short recording. Okay, it's a short recording. Let's stop this too, and then we can just plug this SD card out, right, and plug it into my computer now. Now I'm going to load it into DaVinci. This is ProRes, so ProRes can't be opened by a lot of video recorders. Okay, from this screen, actually the biggest thing you notice is that there is a color tint on this monitor. So this is not, I would say, it's not a very color accurate monitor. Either that or there's some serious calibration issues. There is just no tint setting in this monitor itself, so you probably have to live with whatever tint that you can see here. Okay, so let's take any of the movie files, we just drag it in DaVinci, and you can see ProRes. And it runs really smoothly on my computer too. Wait, is it running? Wait, oh yeah, it's loading. Okay. As you can see, it's running quite smoothly. Okay. Okay. So as a recording system, this is quite good because firstly, it has redundancy. Secondly, it records internally. It gives ProRes. So if you really want to use it as a log file recording, you can probably do this with this monitor. It's not really expensive. It's $660 Sing dollars, quite affordable. In US, you can get it about 500 USD. If you convert the amount of money I paid for it, this should be about 450. Yeah, it's about 450 USD, so it's not expensive at all. And this also a remove limit for a lot of the DSLR, no, DSLR and mirrorless style cameras, which have, some of them still have this 30-minute recording time, and the external monitor kind of remove all this. So it's probably a good investment if you want to do it. Now, as I say, this is actually the old 5-inch model, and I really got it because it's small and light. So to mount this on the camera, you need to get something to, one of these hot shoe mounts that can go onto this. Now, it doesn't come with any of them, so actually I went to SLR Revolution today, and got one of these mounts. So what it does is that it goes into this mount below, and then you got a mount. So now you can put this on your DSLR. Okay, I chose this brand, which I don't know what brand is it, but SLR is holding it. Because firstly, I could tighten the nuts here. Yeah, it doesn't have any tightening on the fly, but I can tighten these nuts for quite good tightening. And secondly, the way it locks is a lot cleaner. A lot of these monitors have very weird locking mechanism that have a spin, and it gets loose over time easily. So I wanted something really stable because this monitor is not really cheap and it's not really light. Quite heavy after you mount 2 batteries on it, but as I say, this monitor can probably mount 1 battery at a time, so no issues on that. Okay. So some other things about this monitor is that this is a very nice touchscreen monitor, surprisingly. Okay, can do here for focus checking. The thing is that after you zoom in, you can't drag the screen around, so it doesn't really work like how you expect it on your phone. So you only can zoom in the center, so no big deal. As you can see, there's a histogram here. Now, this histogram is a histogram, it's not a waveform. So it is really, if you ask me, as a scene level kind of a tool, it's okay, but it's quite useless to me. I mean, you just can gauge the scene yourself. Now, that being said, you can load other type of support, kind of a screen axis, by clicking on top here. Give me a moment. Correct. And you can see zebras, so you can actually use zebras, which also is a nicer thing than a histogram. You can have focus axis, you can on and off it, and you can see a focus axis. And then you could use guidelines, guides. There's nothing much. They see you can different guides to show you how it crops. You have grids on and off, and then there's not much. This grid is probably useful if you use it as a monitoring tool, but probably not so useful for anything else for me. And lastly, you have force color. Now, force color is quite useful because you can really gauge what's overexposed, what's underexposed very, very easily. It's the only bad thing is that when you do this, you literally can't monitor the video anymore because it looks a bit weird in force colors. But I think it's a much better tool than a lot of things. Now, just being said, I'm not a professional filmmaker, so this is how I use the functions. It probably may not be correct. Okay, now let's get back. Other than that, there is really pretty much no other things you can do with this monitor. Let's see what you can do here. Now, if I click on top, you can say that you can set the codecs, as I say. You can set the trigger, which means if the camera can actually trigger recording, this thing does accept it. And there is also HDMI. You can choose either between HDMI and SDI, but I have no SDI connected, so it doesn't show anything at all. Okay. Other than that, let's look at. I just click somewhere here. So now, this monitor allows you to format the SD card. This is a 128 gig, as you can see here straight away, and you can give a card name if you want to. And formatting is quite quick, so let's do a quick format. Takes a few seconds to format the card quite quickly. 128 gig SD card. Okay, it's formatted. Okay, let's continue on. The monitor itself, you can set the focus axis, its line is picking. What is focus line color? Is it does screen rotation? You can also load a LUT in it, so that if you do lock, you probably can utilize it. Currently, there's no LUT. Oh, I didn't load any of it. As you can see here, it's empty. There's no LUT. This monitor comes with no LUT built in, so I don't really use the LUT function because, as I say, I mainly use this to record so that I can do my reviews and occasionally off-camera monitoring. Other thing is the display. You can actually increase the brightness and decrease the brightness, but you notice this is a very lousy brightness increment. It actually washes out the color, so it's quite artificial, and I think it's just probably shifting the white point rather than actually increasing brightness. And there's contrast and saturation. As you can see, the monitor is really quite contrasty and saturated, so I don't think you need to touch that. At least not for me. Now lastly, you go setup, and you can see you can change the name, put a language, what is the software, and HDMI range. Is it video, full, or what? Now, and then there's also a date. As you can see, the date is totally off. Just set it later. And that's about it. There is really no much other functions in this video assist and recorder. I mean, for 650 Sing dollars, this is really bang for the buck. It's probably the cheapest screen and recorder you can get in the market. Uses SD card. You know, ProRes does consume quite a lot of memory, but you know, SD cards is something that a lot of us have, and a 1 to 8 gig SD card is about $60, so it isn't that expensive to run it, and as long as you're not using it to record full time. Now, if you're using the record full time, of course, you may actually consider the Atomos, because using SSD is better. One thing, as I say, I like this because it's a lot lighter and there's battery redundancy, so you never worry. So just swap the batteries. It can swap, you know, you can take one battery out, charge this battery, and then once this battery is charged, just plug it back in again, and then, you know, plug the other battery out quickly, and then continue using the monitor. So this monitor with one battery is really light, and this monitor doesn't have any funky bezel, and the touchscreen is really good. Considering that this came out like 2016 or 2015, I think it's really a great deal. And you know, inbuilt recording, where else can you get this? Okay, other than that, there's nothing much more to review for this monitor. I hope you enjoy it. This is a short mid-week review. There's really nothing much to it. You know, the next thing I review is probably the guy behind there. You can see here, this is the 2870. And also, you know, my GFX review is long overdue. I'm just waiting for this monitor, because one thing about the GFX is a lot of people ask, does it focus fast enough? Now, without this, I really cannot show you how fast it focuses in real life. It's not like the dual pixel AF, which is a really well-known AF. You know, it focuses relatively fast, or like the Sony AF focuses extremely fast. Now, the GFX, not many people knows about it, and not many people actually utilize it and seen it before. So I was just waiting for this monitor to show in-field AF, which I thought is the most important thing about any camera. Hope you enjoy this, and see you next time, probably on the 2870 or a GFX review, or maybe a GFX lens review. I think the GFX system is fantastic, you know. Okay, bye-bye.